What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Well, there's a lot to get to today. It's been a while since we've had the show, but we're back on the Monday schedule. Razorback football has completed 9 practices. I've been there for all the practices. I've probably watched about 19 hours worth of Razorback football practice. So we're going to go through what I think of the team. Are they going to be better? Are they going to be worse than they were last year? Maybe some depth chart stuff. I've certainly put together my own version of a depth chart based on what I've seen so far. So we'll go over that first. We're going to bring Connor Goodson on to talk Razorback basketball with the transfer portal. We're in a dead period right now, but there's plenty of stuff, obviously, that's going to happen, and players leaving and players coming in and all that stuff. We'll get some of that insight from Connor Goodson. And we'll talk to Kevin Bohannon also after Arkansas's 51 runs scored against the Missouri Tigers over the weekend, a record. So, we'll get to all that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. Well, if you've ever thought about signing up at Hog Sports, it's a great time to do so. 50% off right now, or $1 for your first month. So you can sign up for 50% off for the entire year. That breaks down to $1.03 a week, $4.48 a month. Billed at just $59.70 for the entire year. HawgSports.com. Or sign up for $1. The thing I like about the dollar deal that we offer is after the promo ends, after just 1 month, and you decide you like it, because you do, that's how we get you. We get you to come sign up, test us out. Think you're going to quit after a month, just get the transfer portal news and all the insight into spring football and all the recruiting stuff. But then you stick around because you like it so much. But the deal is, if you do stick around, you get Paramount Plus for absolutely free. Not for a month or for a year, but for as long as you're subscribed to Hog Sports. It's a $100 annual value. So pretty sweet deal to get Hog Sports and Paramount Plus if you sign up for just $1 for the first month. Again, 50% off if you choose to do the year option. The only thing with the year option, you don't get Paramount Plus until that expires, the promo expires. So just keep that in mind. So 2 great ways to sign up at HawgSports.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, your number one independent source on Insider Razorback coverage. What else do we need to hit on real quick? Oh, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, go ahead and do that. The newsletter is free. We send probably 75% free content on our newsletter. It just gets delivered to your email inbox. You can cancel anytime. You're not going to want to, because you're going to get all the latest Razorback news just delivered straight to your email inbox every morning. And if there's breaking news, we'll also send that. And if you like to get breaking news a different way, then you should sign up for our breaking news text alerts. Again, all this can be found at Hog Sports. Just look, if you're on your desktop, it's all in the right-hand column. If you're on mobile, just kind of got to scroll down. But it takes 15 seconds to sign it. The time that it takes you to enter your email address or your phone number. That's all it takes to sign up. And you can cancel both of those anytime. We're not going to send you spam and all that kind of stuff through the text messages. We're just going to send you information when breaking news happens. Pretty sweet deal. Stay on top of it before your friends and your group chats and stuff. It's a good way to sign up. Good way to get information. Okay. We'll talk to Connor Goodson here in just a little bit about the transfer portal. He's got the transfer portal tracker up and running so far. You've got Kazimir Chavis, who's entered the portal. Zvonimir Visic, obviously, who's entered the portal and is going to Illinois, I guess, to join his brother. I thought it was weird. Athlon had this weird article about Kazimir Chavis and how that was a big blow. Like, the guy played in 1 game. I mean, nothing against him, but it's not a big deal, right? Boogie Fland also has declared for the NBA draft. So that's expected, obviously. So everything that's happened has been expected. We are in the middle of a dead period right now, April 3rd through 10th. So there's no visitors coming in. What I'm told is Arkansas is really working on retention right now. We're going to leave most of that discussion up to Connor Goodson. I want to talk a little bit about football. So I've put together my depth chart. This is, again, based off of 9 practices that I've watched. I've really focused in on certain guys I'll go to practice and I'll watch matchups. Or if I don't have a good feeling for how things are right now, I'll just focus on a certain player or a certain group of players or a couple players or how this player does against that one. Like trying to decipher how I think the depth chart is. Now, we release a daily depth chart based on fastball, the order which they come out. They run 4 plays, first team, second team, third team. They hit the sideline. A lot of times everybody's like, where's Braylon Russell or where's so, it's not really indicative of an actual depth chart. It's more of an order of appearance. So right now, as far as a depth chart goes, let's see. Oh, that's our day 9 depth chart. I want the depth chart that I put together. Open the wrong thing. So, like, for example, this day 9 depth chart, the reason I knew that wasn't the right depth chart is because Blake Boda is the number 2 quarterback on it. Blake Boda is not going to be the number 2 quarterback, but he just happened to come out second the other day. Kind of give everybody an opportunity, see how maybe the second team offense does with the, 4th, 5th string quarterback. So where's my depth chart? There it is. Okay. Obviously, quarterback is, obviously Taylor Green. I think it's going to get really interesting, guys, in 2026 if everything holds together. Dadgummit, I clicked the wrong thing again. If everything holds together with, coaching staff and players and all that kind of stuff, I think it gets real interesting. There it is, projected. This is my game 1 projected depth chart because Madden Iamaleava is really, really coming on. Like, I've been so impressed with where he was day 1 because day 1 I wrote, I didn't see anything from him that tells me this is a 4-star hot shot, next big thing quarterback. And I didn't day 1. Day 2, day 3, day 4 gets a little better. I mean, it gets better each time. As far as ability is concerned, he's the second best quarterback right now on Arkansas's roster. As far as ability, that's arm strength, quickness, just the way he moves around in the pocket, release. He's got a little bit of a killer instinct. You see him, he likes to throw it downfield. I've been impressed. Not that KJ Jackson hasn't been impressive because KJ's steady. He's got a good command of the offense. But when I'm talking about, like, what's the ceiling of Madden Iamaleava, it's pretty high, I think. Like, future starter type. That's what I see. Taylor Green, obviously the starter now. But that's how I'd put Taylor, KJ Jackson, Madden Iamaleava, Grayson Wilson. Running backs, I've said before that Mike Washington, to me, is maybe the surprise player among the newcomers on offense. I would say that maybe it's Mike Washington. I've got maybe another candidate that I'll mention here in a second, but 6'2", 223. I talked to Mike. We had him in an interview, but I asked him a lot of questions on, what was that, Saturday? And just how a guy like that goes from, because he's obviously an SEC running back. Like, it's obvious that this guy can run. He's got power, speed, good awareness of what's going on. Excuse me. He can catch the ball. 6'2", 223. Why did a guy like that slip through the cracks? Why did he end up at Buffalo out of high school and then transfer and end up in New Mexico State? I think that's interesting. Well, there's this thing called COVID, and probably the state that put the most restrictions on anybody, probably California, probably New York, where he is from. He's from Utica, New York. And he never was able to take any official visits. His recruitment just basically shut down. So that's why he ended up at Buffalo. Texas A&M was talking to him right before everything got shut down. He was going to go visit there. Felt like there was a good chance he was going to get offered, but everything just kind of changed for him. And then he ends up at New Mexico State. That was the first official visit he had ever taken when he ended up at New Mexico State. So I think that's kind of interesting. New York, first of all, isn't really known as a hotbed for football talent. It's more of a basketball state. I mean, you look at the population of New York and you look at the number of football players that come out of there, it's not impressive. So anyway, that's kind of how I guess that he ended up where he was and now just on the SEC level. But to me, you got a few tiers. You got Braylon Russell and Mike Washington. I could see literally either one of those guys lead him in rushing. Thought Braylon Russell was going to have to be a bell cow back. I mean, he's going to be relied on heavily, but Mike Washington's right there. Next group, I think you've got A.J. Green, Rodney Hill, that tier 2, and then third tier, Juju Pope and Cam Settles right now, the freshman Cam Settles. Okay, receiver, Omega Blake has really started coming on the last 4-5 practices or so. Last practice I was at, he had 2 47-yard touchdown catches. One of them was bobbled, pass interference against him, and he still pulled it in right at the goal line. So Omega Blake's starting to come on, which is important because they're lacking that outside threat. They're lacking a 50-50 ball guy. Maybe that's Monte Harrison. They're lacking a guy that can take the top off the defense. Maybe that's Omega Blake. I think we're starting to see Omega Blake emerge as that. Omega Blake, Raylan Sharp, C.J. Brown, I believe, were the starting wide receivers last time. I'm fine with CJ. I think he's done some good things. I think Ismail Cisse is clearly one of the top 3 wide receivers on this team. Clearly, to me. He's the guy that shows up every single practice. Maybe not the burner, maybe not as shifty as Cam Shanks, but just steady time after time. He's my other surprise newcomer because I did not expect a lot out of him. I thought kind of like, why are they bringing in this 5th wide receiver? They brought in 4. What are they doing? Seems like they're just throwing scholarships out. No, he's maybe been the best one so far. Raylan Sharp, Ismail Cisse, Omega Blake. Those are my top 3 wide receivers right now. The next guys, Monte Harrison, Cam Shanks, and C.J. Brown. Courtney Crutchfield's starting to do some good things, but he's not, to me, in the top 5, 6 wide receivers right now. He's not in the top 5. I know that. Generally, you have 4 who play a lot. You start 3. You have 4 who play a lot. You have 6 who play. That's kind of how you end up. Tight ends, Rohan Jones. I don't love this room. Andreas Poshka is, to me, he's an extra blocker who can catch the ball, but Rohan Jones, to me, is just in a separate class from everybody else. Jaden Platt's back. You'd like to see him really kind of start to emerge, but right now it's Rohan Jones. So not a great tight end room overall, in my opinion, right now. I've said before, I think the offensive line is going to be an above-average group in the SEC, which means they're pretty darn good nationally. Shaq McCroy will start at right tackle. He has been working more and more at right tackle. In fact, Saturday he worked pretty much with the first team at right tackle, but I think he's your starting right tackle. I know he is. I know eventually when it all shakes out, it's Shaq McCroy. 6'8", 362, literally the biggest when you combine like overall just size, like weight, build, height. He's the biggest player that I've ever covered, ever. And I was talking to Clay Henry because Clay's retired and he does some stuff now, but he's probably got 15 years on me or more as far as covering Razorbacks, and he's never seen one as big. So maybe the biggest Razorback that we've ever had come through here, Shaq McCroy. Amarian Harris, I think, starts at right guard over Keyshawn Blackstock. Amarian, Keyshawn, and Kobe Brenham. Kobe's got a torn pectoral. I think this is right. That's going to keep him out till the end of July. That's going to set him back, I think. But Amarian Harris, I think, just slides in there at that guard spot. Caden Kittler at center, Fernando Carmona at left guard, and Corey Robinson, who I think has been a really, really as big an addition as anybody over at the left tackle spot. He's an athlete over at left tackle. Nice addition. Pleased with what I've seen out of the offensive line. And the second group, too. I mean, you got Kavian Broussard, Bubba Craig, Brooks Edmondson and Cash Courtney, Keyshawn Blackstock or Kobe Branham, at the other spot. And then Marcus Dumerville is, an older veteran guy at the right tackle spot. But like the offensive line, the second group is so much better than last year's second group. It's not even funny. Defense, maybe a little bit different tone coming up. Okay. I think the offense has the chance to be really good. I think that they have a chance to score a lot of points. Really impressive probably in the running game with Washington, Braylon Russell, and Taylor Green. Effective in the passing game. Maybe they don't have the ability to take the top off a lot or something like that. They may be a little bit limited. I think Rohan Jones can help a little bit in that with some matchups at tight end. Offensive line is going to be so much better, I think, that it's going to really improve Taylor Green's play. So I'm encouraged with the offense. I can skip over to special teams too because I think the special teams are going to be better. I think Scott Starzik is going to be a better kicker than what they had with either of the other two guys last year. I don't know what's going on between his ears. I know he has a big leg and seems to have a lot of confidence. Devin Bale's back at punter. Ashton Knowes back at long snapper. They added an All-American and Cam Shanks at punt returner. You got Rodney Hill back who returned kicks, which I don't care who returns kicks, as you never should return kicks. Should be better on special teams. Now, the issues that I've said before is not so much this personnel on special teams, personnel on offense. There's like little mistakes that they make, like time management mistakes, when to call timeouts, just decision-making, fumbling the ball, not, holding the ball like a loaf of bread, as they say. Things like that are what cost you games. Like I think back to the Missouri game, like the team that didn't commit penalties, the team that didn't turn the ball over was going to win no matter what. It was obvious, like it was in snow or ice. Things like that, and they couldn't avoid it. Having that drive against Texas, and C.J. Brown's carrying the point of the ball up here, and he fumbles it. Like mistakes like that, making time management mistakes, from coaching, stuff like that's what cost you on top. Personnel wise, offense is better than it was last year, and a big part of that is the offensive line. Now, I'm not saying they're better at every position. I don't know that they're better at wide receiver. They may be better in the whole room, top to bottom guy, first guy to the last guy. I don't know if there's an Andrew Armstrong on this team. All right, defensive end, change of tone. If they don't get any player out of the April transfer portal window, then get a defensive end. I think this group looks kind of scary. If you have like Quincy Rhodes, if he were to go down or something, it's not a very good defensive end room. Charlie Collins is close, but he's not there yet physically. Like at 6'5", 255, he should be zooming past these guys. Like he should be a real terror on the edge. So he's not that. He is fast. I've seen him run, but not quite there, I don't think, as a true sophomore. Maybe an 8-week training cycle, he gets there physically. Justice Boone, I think is, a quality player, but is he better than Nico Davier? Like, I'll break it down to you like this. Quincy Rhodes is not better than Landon Jackson was last year. I do think that he could be better than Nico Davier, okay? Charleston Collins, I don't know that he's better than Nico Davier. Maybe he's as good. I don't think so. But if you could go find a guy who's better than Nico was last year, then that gives you two guys. Maybe that provides some balance. You got two guys better than Nico Davier. You know what I mean? Like versus a Landon Jackson and a Nico Davier. Maybe that provides some kind of balance, but go find an end. They need another guy that can start for them, in my opinion. Okay. Surprise return player overall might be Danny Saili to me. I watched him a lot on Saturday. I've been watching him the whole time. What I'll say, like, they had those blocking dummies, just in the drills where he's doing that. Like when he punches that, it's just a different sound than everybody else. I think he's shown a lot of quickness, explosiveness off the line of scrimmage. I was watching their 11 on 11. I'm getting down low and just watching to see who comes off the ball fast. And I'm talking a dozen plays or more watching it like that. And it's Danny Saili over and over again. Just kind of collapsing the middle of the offensive line. I'm talking I think it's a pretty good offensive line that he's going against. So been real pleased with Danny Saili so far. In fact, I think he starts next to Cameron Ball right now. And that's over Ian Gerard, who I kind of penciled in as the other starter. Now, regardless, those are three defensive tackles are going to play a lot. You got to rotate those guys a good bit. So I like Danny Saili. I like Ian Gerard, who's down to 382. He's planning to get down to 370 for the spring. And if you could get that guy at about 365, I think you can get some more snaps out of him, although he is a lot to take on. I mean, you can just see going against that guy over and over again. The thing is, you want to get him on the field for, you want him to play 25, 30 snaps a game. So, and get really good quality snaps out of him as a backup. But if he starts, you want, 50 if you can get him out of it. So to me, I think it's Danny Saili. I think it's Cam Ball. Saili's 6'3", 325 right now. He was 375 last year. I don't think he's quite 6'3" either. I think he's shorter than that to be carrying 375. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the defensive line. I still would like to see them add one more defensive tackle. David Oki is out there, had 64 tackles for Abilene Christian last year. He had not practiced until just this past week. So he's finally practicing with them. Not huge, 6'2", 312, but that's, to me, 4 defensive tackles. Like, if they can go get a guy who's better than Caleb Bell, because Caleb Bell's a good-looking freshman. I think he can play for him. But ideally, you'd like to have somebody more veteran, stronger, been in the weight room and stuff. But Caleb Bell's got a really bright future, I think, also based on what I've seen so far. Linebacker at Steven Dix and Xavier Sori. Bradley Shaw also did see them run some 4-3. Where am I at on time? Okay. I'm getting to you here in just a second, Connor. But those two guys, I saw them work some 4-3, 4-3 under. So, getting Bradley Shaw closer to the line of scrimmage. But I would like to see them add one more linebacker. Pretty much at every spot, we're going to say on defense, they need to add another guy. They're just, the depth isn't quite there. I don't think that they look as good in their front seven as maybe they did last year. Maybe linebacker because they've got their two starters back, but they don't have Brad Spence. You know what I mean? Is Bradley Shaw going to be as good as Brad Spence? I just don't know yet. So I would like to see them add one more veteran, Antonio Greer, think like him, or Anthony Switzer, just an older linebacker, just as an insurance, because after Steven Dix and Xavier Sorey, you're talking about Brad Shaw and Tavian Wallace or Wyatt Simpson, guys that are freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and Shaw, as just a true sophomore. So one more guy, I think, as an insurance policy. Because here's the deal. Like, we look at this kind of stuff and we're like, yeah, starting defense look pretty good. Somebody's getting hurt probably on every single level, and you're going to be down a guy. Okay, so who's the next guy? That's what you have to wonder about. And in this day, with the transfer portal, there's no reason not to have that depth established. You can go out and get it. You've got $20.5 million in revenue sharing to help you, plus whatever you have in NIL. All right, so safety. I've got Larry Worth at nickel at the Hog. I think he's your best option there. 6'4", 224, 40.5-inch vertical, can run, athlete. I don't hate him there. I wonder a little bit when he's matched up against a shifty wide receiver like we've seen with Raylan Sharp. Can he cover him? But he is rangy, and he can jump. So maybe he's the best option there. If he's not, then maybe Caleb Wooden is. He is, to me, Caleb is right now their fourth safety. They have him starting pretty regularly. I like Quintavious Scandrett at that spot, but Scandrett is more of a boundary. I think Miguel Mitchell is also more of a boundary. Those are probably your two best options in addition to Larry Worth, if Larry Worth doesn't start at safety. But I think they can move a lot of those guys pretty freely. Worth and Caleb Wooden have been working mostly at the nickel spot. Miguel did work there, I think, on Tuesday. First time I've seen him there. They also had Jaden Allen, the cornerback, working some there. J.J. Shelton has been a surprise addition out of the freshman class. Not a guy that wasn't talked about a whole lot, but he's worked a lot at that nickel spot too. So I think if it were me, maybe Miguel Mitchell, Quintavious Scandrett, and then Caleb Wooden kind of being the guy that plays all three of those spots. They need some help. They may need two safeties. Their numbers are down at safety. I'm not saying like I just love their safeties, but I don't hate them either. You know what I mean? Like, probably as a group, a little below average SEC standards. They need to go out and find another safety. One, it'd be nice if they could find a guy that can play for them, and even overtake a guy. But two, the numbers suck at safety. They need better numbers. Cornerback is probably the least informed I feel like I'd be, because Kenai Walker has been limited in the reps that he's getting. Selman Bridges, I think they're really pushing him to be a starter. I mean, he was like number 119 overall prospect in the country coming out of high school last year. So they're giving him, seems like, every opportunity. They're giving James Singletary a lot of opportunities. I feel like they do that year after year, and he hasn't produced yet, so I need to see it. The guy on defense, I would say maybe my surprise guy addition to Saili is probably Keyshawn Davila. The junior college cornerback is number one ranked junior college. Thing with Davila is, they tried to work him at nickel some. He's just too light. He's about 165 pounds. He's never going to be 190 pounds. He might get to 175 or something, but he doesn't have like the frame, in my opinion, to put that on. Although, like, he'll hit you. Like, he'll come, like, he's kind of like one of those dogs that doesn't know he's smaller, but he's 6'1", so he's not rangy, but he's just light. He's narrowly built, but he can cover. I like him to potentially start. I just need to see more from Kenai Walker, Jordan Young before I say that. But to me right now, the guy that makes the most plays in terms of batting down passes and stuff is Keyshawn Davila. That's my opinion, based on 19 hours of viewing. I don't see everything, but I see a lot. Okay, we went over special teams. I think we covered it pretty well. All right, we're going to hop over to Connor Goodson. We'll take some more football talk if we can get to it here in a little bit, but I want to get to Connor now because, yeah, there's a lot going on with basketball. We haven't even really talked about the NCAA tournament, which I was in Colorado. I guess some of you guys know I was in Crested Butte. We had some good watch parties and stuff for that, but obviously disappointed in the way they finished. But it was fun to watch this team. Connor, what did you think about watching this team? I mean, it was like a movie. Like you think you know the answer, and then turns out there's a surprise ending.
Yeah, I mean, was the ending really surprising though? I mean, it felt like
gradually it got surprising.
yeah, it did.
I mean, we thought they sucked.
True. From how we were feeling in January to how we felt, going into San Francisco. I mean, just night and day. You couldn't be more opposite in that. But the way that they lost, I don't think was really a surprise because they were kind of playing with fire all year. Getting these big leads and then giving it up. But man, what a fun ride that team. And that's what kind of sucked with me covering them, why it hurts so bad for it to end is because it was so fun to cover this team, man. Like it was getting to the point to where it was like you were like looking forward to getting to go watch this team and like you didn't want it to end. Nobody wants their season to end, but like in this specific moment compared to how we were feeling going into games in against Georgia in January when, right after the Boogie Flan news dropped, just kind of dreading what kind of loomed ahead, to being eger and super excited for.
I felt the same way, Connor.
Yeah.
I was like so frustrated with them, like mad at them, and then to go from that to like feeling so confident in them. And, it was just such a dramatic change. And, it reminds you a little bit that like, we live in the moment in sports and that's fun to do, but like, if we went back and looked at some of our takes on this team, we were pretty hard on some guys. Who ended up being really good players for them,
Yeah, on this very show, like I came on and I believe I said something like, this team doesn't look like they know how to, do a basic inbounds play or run a basic off. They don't look like they know how to play basketball at times.
I said Jonas Adu and Nelly were the worst transfer portal additions among the top 25 players, like the biggest disappointments. And
there was a lot of truth in that.
When they needed them, though, like when they needed a guy to step up, it's almost like you start talking bad about a guy, and when you need him to step up, he's there. Like Jonas Adu was suddenly the Jonas Adu that you saw from the Tennessee highlights and his transfer portal highlights. And Trevin Brazile ended up playing his best basketball that we've ever seen. And Nelly came. I mean, it's like one guy after another when you need it. DJ, like we were hard on DJ early when he was, kind of playing, I guess, out of position. And then they move him to point guard and suddenly like nobody can guard him when he's taking it to the basket. It's like everybody changed at some point. And it's kind of remarkable how that happened and how it unfolded. It would have been lovely to see them get to an Elite Eight. Florida would have been tough, obviously. But man, the fact that they got to the Sweet 16, they were the highest seed to make it that far, I thought was a really fun ending.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're looking at that on paper at the beginning of the season, you said this team's going to make it to the Sweet 16 with this roster. You're like, I'd take that. First year of Cal, all things considered, that's a pretty successful year. And then how it played out, just the roller coaster, man. When you get into it, and you're living and dying by every possession. It's just it sucks that it came to what I felt like was a premature end because, the way that Florida played against Texas Tech, you look at that, if Arkansas could have held on, maybe we're in San Antonio right now doing a live stream from there, who knows? But yeah, it was a fun season, a really good foundation point for Cal going forward, I think. And really excited to see what the roster does next year because you got a lot of the guys who are really exciting to watch possibly coming back, which I think is a really good starting spot for building next year's roster.
Yeah. So we're in a dead period right now. It runs through the 10th. From what I'm told, Arkansas is really focused on retention right now. A lot of their guys, which they should be. But I guess what's on the horizon? What can you talk about? What are the needs? What's going to happen? I mean, we're still in like just kind of a wait and see mode right now.
Yeah, I think that's been a little frustrating for some people is that this has kind of taken a little bit longer for getting guys and announcements, and you're not really seeing like with Musselman, it was like every time someone jumped in the portal, you're like, oh, that's a possibility because they're talking to him, and There was always that just, hit
Yeah.
of just, like, oh, Arkansas's in on this guy, Arkansas. And
They were intentionally doing that to throw people off, though.
yeah, exactly.
That's
But
how
it was like,
crazy
it just
Musselman
felt
was.
like it was like, a full on like 24/7, the whole entire day you had to be like on guard with it. And now with this staff, Calipari has his process. They're taking their time. The key is retention. And like we've said this from the get-go, Calipari's been emphasizing this. They want to get the dudes that they can back. And obviously, I think we all knew that Boogie was going to go to the NBA. There wasn't really a big surprise there. But, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like it's a realistic possibility that Adu Thero is back in Fayetteville. I think that he's going to test the NBA draft waters, which he should. He should go back and, get all the feedback, hear what he can from all of these teams and see what he needs to do, I think, before making a decision. But that's going to take time. Again, we're not going to get clarity on that situation, I don't think, for a little while. DJ Wagner, what does he do? There's talk with, you're bringing in Darius Acuff, Malik Thomas, two guys who are just studs. And you know how Calipari is with his guards. Like, he's going to let them feast. But does that mean that DJ Wagner takes a back seat? Is he going to have the ball in his hands less? Or kind of how does that play out? Does that affect him? Does he see that and maybe think, oh, well, I want to go somewhere else? Right now, from talking to people, it sounds like that he doesn't really have a clear indication one way or another. The staff doesn't have a clear indication with him. So that could be something to watch there. But with the other three guys, I think Trevin Brazile, Carter Knox, Billy Richmond, I would be really shocked if we don't see them in an Arkansas jersey next season. It sounds like they're pretty firm from, talking to people around the team and things of that nature. I think that we can probably expect that them to be back. And it's hard not to be excited with that, because the way, like you said, the way that Trevin Brazile played down the stretch, I mean, the way he got after it on the boards at both ends of the floor, if you can get that from him for an entire year, which I think we saw he was going to do that before he tore his ACL 2 years ago, that is the best version of Trevin Brazile. And I think that that's when Arkansas is at their best, is when he, whether it was under Muss or whether it was under Calipari, when he's playing at that level, Arkansas tends to be playing, the best basketball that we see. So that's exciting. Carter Knox, I thought it was a guy who, man, I just loved watching his kind of arc throughout the year, because you saw him come in. The game was way too fast. Like, he looked like a freshman, kind of deer in the headlight look at times. And he didn't really know how to, make his presence felt if his shots weren't going in. And then the end of the year, you're seeing him dive on the floor for loose balls. You're seeing him like be that defender, not afraid to step up and make the plays, be physical, get into guys, just do the dirty work and the grunt work, even if his shots weren't falling. And then they started falling for him. And he was turning into that big time player that I think we all kind of expected. So that's what I'm really excited about. And then you add a couple of guys from the portal here to really round it out and kind of make up for the holes that are left. And this could be a really special roster, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, especially with, a couple of McDonald's All-Americans, Acuff, Thomas, guys that can shoot.
One more.
Maybe one more. What do you think? What do you think about that? You think Ament, where do you think he ends up?
Man, so like a couple of weeks ago, I was, I had felt good hearing different things with Arkansas. It kind of, you're like, man, there's some smoke there. And then, you know how these things go. It just changes all of a sudden. You're like, oh, well, Duke's now, there. And it just got to the point where it was like you're every 2 hours or something, somebody was saying that something changed, and I was kind of like, you know what, if this kid picks to go to Arkansas, great. If he doesn't, I can't do this every 2 hours, something changing kind of thing. And so I kind of removed myself a little bit, tried to just kind of focus on the portal. And now it looks like there's some steam that Arkansas may have the upper hand right now. I feel like we've seen these type of recruitments drag on time and time again with guys, flirting with Arkansas, and it just feels like it doesn't always work out. And so maybe that's the pessimist in me. Maybe I'm not being too optimistic and trusting what people are saying right now. But when you got an 18-year-old who doesn't really know what's going to happen, you're hearing conflicting things. It's tough to really put a finger on the pulse and see what's going to happen and kind of, forecast what this kid's going to do, because it's just, at the end of the day, he's going to go where he wants. And I think that Arkansas has a really competitive offer. As much as Calipari has wanted Nate Ament, like as much, I don't think I've seen Calipari really pursue or recruit this hard in a while. And so as much as he's done that, like Mint's going to get his, like he's going to have a defined role. He's going to be a big part of this team next year if he does choose Arkansas. So it's like when you think about that, well, what's the holdup then? Like it sounds like he's got everything he could want at Arkansas. So what's really the holdup? And that's where we're kind of at right now. When does he announce? When does he actually make that decision? Which decision is it? What's in his ear? Who's in his ear? Telling him what to do. So I think that's where it's kind of at right now. You know, we could wake up tomorrow and it's a solid thing that he's going to Duke. Right now, it looks like Arkansas might be a lean there, but it's just difficult to keep up. But Nate Mint's a pretty big time guy, big time player. I would be excited to watch him in an Arkansas jersey for sure. But it's just you don't really know what
was supposed to decide 6 days ago. Had the April 1st announcement, but pushed that back. One thing I know about 18-year-olds, it's been a while since I was 18, but you don't try to push them. You open the door and let them walk through if they want to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell them what's on the other side, but you don't push them. So hopefully he makes a decision soon and we can get on with that. And
I do expect that there to be, I don't know how soon this is. You know, we are in a dead period, and Arkansas we saw it last year. Every player besides Trevor Brazile, the 9 main guys that Calipari brought in, they all took visits to Fayetteville before they announced that they were committing. You know, Nelly Davis was the only one that I don't think was broadcast and we really knew about until after it happened. But they all did end up visiting Fayetteville before they formally announced. And so when you look at these guys like Malik Ewan's a guy that I'm hearing that Arkansas is pretty, you know, it's a pretty not foregone conclusion, but there's a lot of smoke there that he's going to end up in Fayetteville. But you don't have that announcement. You don't have, you know, it's kind of gone a little bit quiet there. I think that this could be a situation where as soon as the dead period lifts and he can get to campus, they're probably going to try to get him on the campus for a day or two and then announce. I think that would not shock me if we end up there. But Malik Ewan, I think, is a name to watch that we could see possibly pop in the near future for Arkansas. And not a lot to dislike about his game. He doesn't really offer a ton of rim protection, but this dude is a dog on the offensive and defensive glass. Like at the offensive glass, he was in like the 94th percentile on offensive rebound percentage, had 9 double-doubles last season. The dude gets after it. He's a really impressive player, and I think he's going to fit really well. He shot like 92% from at the rim, which we know Arkansas last year, they struggled a lot at making layups, struggling getting shots to fall at the rim. And so he kind of fills that role as that junkyard dog. You can kind of get after it on the glass, and you can really go to him in the paint for easy buckets down low. So I think that he's going to be a really good fit for Arkansas, and we should expect to hear something from him in the near future, I would say.
Yeah, Arkansas had some guys who were athletes around the rim, but as far as like bangers, they didn't have that. And I don't know what the numbers were at the end of the day, but it seems like it felt like offensive rebounding was a huge problem for Arkansas.
Yeah, and I think Ewan's going to fit in really, really well there and give them that. And he also, he has a pretty deep bag with post moves and his moving up and down the floor. Someone said this on the portal thread earlier over the weekend, but he kind of moves like when you're watching his tape, he moves up and down the floor a lot like Big Dan Gafford. Who we know is having a really good career in the NBA and was obviously one of the most exciting Hogs to watch. I don't think he has quite the hops and the athleticism, but he's really athletic, sneaky good down low with post moves and stuff, and he can score at will. So I think Arkansas fans are really going to like him from that standpoint. And it's a really good portal pop to kind of add to these guys. If you do get all of those dudes to return, it's a great addition, kind of cherry on top, kind of add.
Yeah. All right, Connor. Appreciate you, brother.
All right. It was fun. Good to talk to you, Trey, and I'll see you soon.
Okay. See you soon, buddy. All right, everybody. That's Connor Goodson. You can follow Connor at Connor Goodson on X. He is the HawgSports basketball analyst, but does so much more. Helps us with football, obviously. Does a lot of great things at HawgSports, HawgSports.com. It is 50% off right now for your first year, or try us out for $1 your first month. 2 great ways to sign up. All right, we're going to bring Kevin Bohannon. You can follow Kevin at KB Baseball Guru on X. Does all of our baseball stuff and does a great job for us. 51 runs, Kevin. Is that a lot?
That is a lot. And was talking to a lot of people yesterday as the doubleheader was going on. I was like, I'm scrambling to look up the last time they scored that many, and found out it was 1997, 50 runs against South Carolina. Had a buddy of mine said, hey, we gave up 38 to Southern Miss when he was at Missouri back in the early 2000s. So, yeah, 51 is a lot. And just the way they did it, it really surprised me considering how down Missouri is. You know, they had Arkansas had 32 hits yesterday. And, I mean, yeah, they walked and they took their at-bats, and they stayed with it the whole game. And they scored 51 runs in 18 innings. Assuming they win all 3 ball games at home, that's 6 innings that they missed out on this weekend. So, yeah, it was an incredible weekend.
Have they won? Have they won an SEC? They got swept against LSU, swept against Ole Miss,
0-12. Yep.
Swept against Texas. Yeah, swept against Arkansas. They beat UAPB
twice.
Yeah. Beat them 25-10 in 7 innings.
Yeah.
Speaking of in-state schools, Arkansas has Arkansas State up next.
Yeah.
Arkansas State's not any good either.
They can't hit. That's the thing. They can't score very many runs, and that's a problem when you're playing at Ball Marker Stadium. They've pitched well this year. Going into this past weekend, they were 29th in ERA, and strikeouts per walks, the ratio was pretty good as well. So they've pitched well. Colin Maloney's their Friday night guy. They got a freshman, Jack Hibbard, who may throw an inning, just depends on how Coach Silva sets it up. Look, this is the first year under Mike Silva. They're still in the Sun Belt. They did win a game at Coastal Carolina this past weekend, one of 3. So, yeah, Arkansas should win this game. They should win it pretty easily. But as you know, baseball stuff happens. Arkansas is really focused right now. That's the thing that I took away from this weekend. It doesn't matter who's in front of them, and they've got a tough schedule coming up. They're just going to take care of business.
So Georgia up next in the SEC. They got swept by Texas, and but they're, what are they?
6th.
Yeah, they're 29-5 overall.
Yeah, this is a really good Georgia team. Wes Johnson's done a great job. Wes Johnson, of course, Sherwood native. Coach said abundant life. I got to know him very well as he was coaching high school. Then he made the move to Dallas Baptist. Next thing you know, he's coaching at Arkansas and in a College World Series. So he made the first move from college to the MLB ranks for the first time in 37 years when he went to the Minnesota Twins. So everybody likes Coach Johnson. Players love playing for him. He's gotten a lot of really good recruits out of the transfer portal and the high school ranks. They're swinging the hot bat this year. They've got 87 home runs. Robbie Burnett, 15 home runs. Rylan Zabrowski, 14 home runs. So yeah, they're leading the league. Both of those are 1 and 2 for home runs. Pitching, pretty good. But as you saw this past weekend, Texas took it to them, took all 3 of them.
What you got going on in the background there? Is that paint? Or is that some kind of tinctures or something?
That's oil. Yeah, that's my wife's oil collection to go along with the crate of the Razorbacks in the background.
Yeah, so she's a painter, huh?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, she's got the creative side. She balances out my analytical side.
Yeah, I paint. I used to paint. I don't paint anymore, but I don't have time to. But I love to paint. I was always involved in art and stuff. So, who did that Razorback in the background there?
Lady in Sheridan, actually.
Oh, yeah?
My wife got that for me right before we got married, actually.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. That's cool. So, Kevin, I guess, me, I don't know a whole lot about baseball. I mean, I watch the Razorbacks when they're on and stuff like that, but I can't go into depth or anything. I don't know a whole lot that's going to provide. Diehard fans are going to listen to me talk about baseball and go, "Shut up, Trey." So what else do we need to know about what's going on with baseball? Anything injury wise or personnel wise? Anything that the diehards need to know?
Yeah. So Gage Wood is making his way back slowly. Shoulder impingement, it's a broad term. There was no structural damage when he walked off the field against Michigan in Arlington on February 23rd. They're just bringing him back slowly. Look, they're 30-3. That matches the best 33-game start in school history, matches last year. The difference between this year and last year, they can afford for him to be out for a little bit. So if you can bring him back slowly and have him at peak physical condition for the stretch run and going into the SEC tournament, into the postseason, they can do that. So they're afforded that luxury. Parker Coyle, Coach Van Horn met with us last week and said, look, he's going to be out till the end of the regular season. He's had a back issue. They haven't given us any more information besides that. Okay, so Parker Coyle, one of the top pitchers coming out of the bullpen, the top lefty out of the bullpen. But they've got some young guys stepping up. Cole Gibbler saw his first SEC action. He struck out 2 in the 6th inning yesterday, so on Sunday. And, these guys are just going to step up. It's going to be next man up. You've seen that. Logan Maxwell, hamstring tightened up a little bit yesterday. That's why you saw Carson Boyles start and play the entire game 3 against Missouri. But it's nothing that the coaching staff is worried about right now. The biggest thing is, and I've talked, and our message board keeps going, and I love interacting with all of our fans. Is this team going to fall off at the end of the season? And nobody can rub a crystal ball and say yes or no. Everything is lining up for this pointing to be an Omaha team. I met with Coach Thompson last week, and there will be an article on HawgSports.com tomorrow or Wednesday about my interview with him. And I got in pretty in-depth about, look, is this the deepest team you've had at Arkansas? And he compared it to the 2018 squad. The 2018 squad scored 30 runs in a doubleheader against Kentucky. Well, Kentucky wasn't as good as they are now back in 2018. So yeah, there's things that are lining up. You have good young talent. You have some guys that have come in from the portal and have surprised a little bit in terms of power production. But the athletes, the complete athletes that they wanted to get out of the portal and out of the JUCO ranks, out of the high school ranks, they've gotten those guys to campus now, and they're on this team. So everything's lining up that's pointing, saying, hey, yeah, this is an Omaha team. They'll find out a lot over the next 5-6 weeks because they play number 2 Texas. They play Tennessee. They play LSU. They play a Texas A&M team that took 2 of 3 from Tennessee this past weekend and scored 28 runs in games 2 and 3. So find out a lot over the next couple of weeks, but I don't see much changing. This team is rolling. They're full steam ahead, and TCB, take care of business.
Cabo, appreciate you, brother. Great
Absolutely,
stuff as
Terry.
always, man.
Yep.
All right, brother.
See you, bud.
All right, everybody. That's Kevin Bohannan. Does a great job for us covering Razorback baseball, and helps us out with a lot of other things. Got good football knowledge, all that kind of stuff. He's into Arkansas, so that's what we're looking for. But follow Kevin at K-Bo. What is it? Coach K-Bo, Baseball Guru. What is it, Kevin?
K-Bo Baseball Guru.
K-Bo Baseball Guru.
Yeah.
I don't know why I can't get that in my head. Appreciate you, brother.
You bet, buddy.
All right, Kevin Bohannan, K-Bo Baseball Guru. So, yeah, if you want to read all of Kevin's baseball stuff, go to HawgSports. Again, if you haven't signed up for 50% off, do so. We're going to get to some questions here. We haven't done that in a while. If you haven't signed up for 50% off, do so, or $1 for the first month. If you haven't signed up for our breaking news text alerts, do that. It's as easy as entering your phone number. It's easy to cancel also. I think you just hit stop on the message thing. So easy to do that also. Same way, but you're not going to want to cancel. We're not going to I think a lot of people think you can give you your phone number. We're going to do it. We're just going to send you text alerts. It'll be an alert like this is what happened with a link back to the article. That's it. And we're not going to spam you with a bunch of stuff either at all. Also sign up for our newsletter. That's just Razorback news delivered to your email inbox. We try to do it about every morning if there's plenty of stuff going on. And then, if there's a breaking news thing, we also send it out through the newsletter. So a lot of great ways to get your Razorback news. If you haven't signed up on our Facebook page, a lot of you are watching this show right now on our Facebook page. We have, I think, 100,000 plus followers, Razorback fans. So be one to join that. We post all of our free content on that Facebook page, as well as other stuff that you can interact with. And also our, we like really relevant national articles also are also posted on that Facebook page. Maybe have some kind of connection to Arkansas or something, or just some other kind of big news. But the Facebook page is kind of a mix, mostly almost all Arkansas stuff with some national stuff sprinkled in here and there. If you like that kind of flavor also. I don't know if I asked you to follow me on X, but if you don't follow me on X, then you should, at Trey Biddy, TreyBiddy. Follow Danny West, who's not on the show today. I think he's out there killing turkeys somewhere. But at Danny West 24/7. Of course, Connor Goodson. Our interns, Rowan Hanby and Tyler Glasscock. Tyler Glasscock is at the Final Four. He's so Tyler is he does an internship also covering San Antonio Spurs, which is the team that he grew up loving. So he's at the Alamo Dome right now, watching Final Four, which is tonight. Who do you like in the Final Four? Let me know in the comments below. I know I didn't want Auburn to win a national championship because Arkansas has got one national championship. I didn't want Auburn to have one. Like Arkansas and Florida to me are the second best basketball programs. Arkansas has a little more depth to its basketball history, won more, conference titles. I think maybe been to more Sweet 16s. When you start talking about Elite Eights, I think it's pretty even now. Final Fours, I think that's even. They have been to, this is their fourth championship game, so they've got Arkansas edge there. You would probably have to give Florida the edge. They do have two national championships back-to-back years. This is their fourth championship game appearance. You probably have to give Florida the edge over Arkansas right now. I don't want them to have a clear edge. So I'm one of the guys that typically roots a little, roots a strong word, but wants the SEC to win, just because I think it validates a little bit more, the competition that Arkansas goes up against. But I understand the logic the other way too. I'm not firm in it because I definitely think the other way too at times. But to me, I feel like Houston's been knocking at the door a long time. I feel like they've been knocking, and maybe finally get in. Kelvin Sampson. I think it's interesting that two of the four coaches have had show causes against them, Kelvin Sampson and Bruce Pearl. But I don't know. I think kind of something about me, I kind of wants Houston to win the national championship. I just feel like Kelvin Sampson kind of has earned it. So, okay, let's get to some questions. We've had a lot of activity today. Today was a highly watched show. We have 1,745 people watching. We've got a ton of comments. See if we've got anything interesting. Turd Ferguson, great name. Jeopardy, Saturday Night Live, says, what bigs are we after? Connor talked about that a little bit. I don't want to go over stuff that we've already talked about. Mr. TW says, is it better than the Chad Morris era? You already know the answer to that. Chad Morris should not be the measuring stick by which you measure Arkansas football success or failure. I mean, it was just an utter failure. Jason Hodges says, are we better? I know baseball's doing great. They are. There's always baseball. Now, the question is it, TW says, is it better than Chad Morris era? Yes. Is it good enough to be better than 6-6? No. Sam Pittman is below average head coach. The program is in bad shape. First time in my life. I'm not excited about football. It's killing me. I don't think you make bad points there, TW. I do think that the offense is going to have to outscore some teams. I think that they're going to be able to. I think that they're going to have a chance to do that. I just don't have a lot of confidence right now in this defense. It's not that I don't think that Travis Williams is a good coach or Marcus Woodson. I just think personnel-wise, I'm not loving the defense. I do like the linebackers, Xavier Soria and Steven Dix. I think Quincy Rhodes has a bright future. I don't think that they're bad at defensive tackle. I like Cam Ball, I think, is a really good player. I think he has potential to play on the next level. I've loved what I've seen out of Danny Saili. I think Ian Gerfard has a ton of upside. And I'm hopeful for David Oki that, being a guy that registered 64 tackles at Abilene Christian, that he can be a guy that can really help him. But hopeful is not knowing, and I just feel like there's one more guy missing on the defensive tackle spot, and I feel like there's one more guy missing at defensive end as far as you got to be strong on the defensive line. And I just don't feel like that is, from a depth standpoint, where it needs to be right now. I want to see him add one more linebacker just for insurance, because somebody's going to get banged. People get banged up in football. Like, you can't just look at it and say, okay, it's not a bad defense because of the starters, because people are going to get dinged up. I think that they have a chance to be better in the secondary, but is that saying a lot? They were dead last year. They were last in the secondary last year in pass defense. A lot of it was that Ole Miss game. That was like 2 games worth of passing yards. So those are my concerns. It's defense. It's defense, and like you said, I mean, like, Sam Pittman has kind of a bit of a history here and there of making the wrong decision. Like, it felt like for a while there was like, if you can make the wrong decision on whether to punt or kick a field goal or go for it, the wrong decision was made. Like, it happened a lot. And then things like that are the reason Arkansas lost a lot of one-score games. They had a really terrible streak going of one-score losses. So can they get better than 6-6? Let me ask you this. Like, if they go 6-6, is that a reason to keep Sam Pittman on board? I mean, you're talking about going 4-8, 7-6, 6-6, heading into a bowl game. Like, in years, 4, 5, and 6, this is year 6 for Sam. It's been a while since 2021. That was a 9-win season with the bowl game. It's been a while. So is that enough? Going 6-6, is that enough? I mean, you said it here yourself, TW. First time I'm not excited about football. It's killing me. That's a tough place to be if you're a Razorback fan, because there's not a lot else. Like, we have Razorbacks. We have Razorback football. And if Razorback football falls off, it's not like you just turn your attention to the pro team. Some people have Dallas Cowboys and stuff and whatnot, but it's like, as far as inside this state, like, this is the show. So when the show sucks, there's nowhere to turn to, Josh Elam says no. Short answer. So, like, it's not like they were great last year. They went 6-6. So, like, me asking if they're going to be better and to say no without having, seen anything, that's a pretty firm stance. I think they're going to be better on offense, probably worse on defense. Like, that's where I am right now. I think losing guys like Landon Jackson, I think Eric Gregory was highly underrated. Even Nico Dabbitt, like, got the guys they lost to the transfer portal. Like, I'm not so concerned about losing some of the guys that they lost on offense, but defensively, I'm a little more concerned. Let's see. We can't be better when we lose our best tight end, OL, and DB to Ole Miss. So Rohan Jones, I'm not saying like he's as good as Luke has, but I bet he cost a way, way less than what Luke has would have cost them. And I think he's almost as good, probably more physical. Patrick Kudus, is he the best OL? I mean, he played in 4 games last year. I think he's overrated. They had him like as the number 13 transfer portal player in the country, which is, to me, a little ridiculous. But I do think he's a good offensive lineman. I think his best football is in front of him. I think he'll be a good player for Ole Miss. So, yeah, that one kind of stings. But, guys, I really like Corey Robinson. I like Shaq McCroy. I think those are 2 really good additions for him. I'm not concerned that the offense is going to be – like, for everything they lost, I still think they're going to be better on offense than they were last year. Defense is a different story. Like, I don't like losing – a couple of safeties to Ole Miss, or to Michigan, or another defensive back to Ole Miss, for example, or losing, a starting defensive end to UCLA. Not that Nico Dabbitt is like an future NFL player or something. Like, there's a lot of guys that they lost that are replaceable. The question is, did they replace them? Wide receiver room got exponentially worse this year. Yeah, wide receiver room would be like, if there's an area on offense where I say they're not as good, I think it's wide receiver, because there's not like an Andrew Armstrong. But let me pose this to you, okay? Let me pose this to you. Who are the great Arkansas wide receivers historically? Okay, Traylon Burks, Joe Adams, Jarius Wright, Greg Childs, Anthony Lucas. Like, when we get to the other guys, like Kobe Hamilton is, the all-time leading receiver at Arkansas, single season. Kobe was, 6th round draft pick and, played a little bit in the NFL, but not much at all. Didn't put up like impressive combine numbers at all. Andrew Armstrong, for as good as he was last year, we're talking about Andrew Armstrong maybe getting a 7th round, maybe a 7th round pick or something. We're talking about Isaac TeSlaa maybe having a chance to slip in there somewhere. Think about that. So, is Isaiah Satania, is he going to the NFL? The guy they lost? I just think about it like that, like as good as we felt Andrew Armstrong was, he's not a guy that's like high on NFL draft boards. Like, who are the great Arkansas receivers? Like, even out of that group, Greg Childs had two patellar tendon tears, which is tough. But like Joe Adams didn't last a long time in the NFL. Jarius Wright did. Jarius Wright at one time was the highest paid slot receiver in the NFL. But who are the great wide receivers? Like, you're going to go all the way back to Bambi? I think he played running back at Arkansas also. But Lance Allworth, Jarius Wright. I mean, there's not a, Anthony Lucas. What was Anthony, like a 3rd or 4th? He had knee issues and didn't play a whole lot in the NFL, but he was a great wide receiver at Arkansas. But as I was looking at some of these wide receivers, I'm looking at the sideline, I'm looking at this dude, and I'm like, man, that guy looks familiar. Who is that? Richard Smith. Richard Smith played at Arkansas. I think he was class of 99. He redshirted, so he was 2000, 2003, played alongside Matt Jones. George Wilson played alongside him. George Wilson was a good wide receiver, went to the NFL and played safety for a number of years. But like Richard Smith was a guy that, wasn't an NFL guy. He was an athlete. He was a good track player too, good jumper. Did I say track player? He's a track player. That sounds like somebody who doesn't know anything at all about track. It's like calling run scores in baseball. Arkansas baseball up 3 scores to 2. No, he was a good track athlete also. But to me, Smith wasn't like super big or, super flashy or anything, but he was a consistent wide receiver. And I think that's what they've got at wide receiver. I think they've got guys that can get open and catch the ball. They may not have a guy that can overcome great defense. I don't know yet. Omega Blake, probably the best possibility. From a talent standpoint, Courtney Crutchfield has that potential. Overall, are they better or worse at wide receiver? The room, guy 1 to guy 12 is better. Guy 1, 2, 3, I don't know. I don't know if that's better than it was last year. So that might be the area where they've taken a step back. And tight end too. I mean, let's count tight end in that group. You had Luke Haz. You had 2 other guys that can catch the ball, plus Poshka. I think they've got like 1 tight end that can really catch. I mean, Poshka can catch it, but like he's not catching anything downfield, and he's not doing anything with it after the catch. The offense will still be better, I think, mainly because Taylor Green's back. I think they're going to be in decent shape at running back and better offensive line. That's going to matter. And I've said this before, like offensive line matters so much that like if Kansas City played Philadelphia every week, everybody would be like, Patrick Mahomes sucks as a quarterback. Pays to have some protection. SP, Sam Pittman is a terrible recruiter as a head coach. As a head coach, you cannot develop talent. So you're limited nowadays. Like we got to talk about, when you're talking about how good somebody is as a recruiter, you also have to talk about, do they have money, in the transfer portal? But sure, I mean, recruiting has been not impressive. I mean, it just hasn't. Like, but is that all Sam Pittman's fault, or is it the fact that like a school like Ohio State has $20 million they're spending, and Arkansas is spending, what did they spend last year? Maybe I've heard all kinds of numbers. I've heard as low as 6. Hopefully, it's more than that. But they'll have a lot more this year. So, and like as far as recruiting, also like it's not just about going out and getting 4 or 5 stars and whatnot. Like Houston Nutt used to be pretty darn good at going out and getting guys and evaluating Arkansas kids. Like, Jamal Anderson was a 2-star recruit. I mean, he was like a wide receiver There were so many guys on the defensive side of the ball that came to Arkansas that ended up getting drafted who were not super highly regarded recruits. They did a good job evaluating guys on the defensive side of the ball. And it really hasn't been done at that level since Houston Nutt. It really hasn't. In the pod with J-Rod, who doesn't know what they're talking about? I guess you're talking about the other people because you're one of our fans, J-Rod. Okay. Pardon the pause. I'm just trying to find a good question, a good topic. A lot of talking back and forth between posters. Where's Ozzie Maverick when you need him to disprove something ridiculous? Josh Elam is just taking over the stream. Sorry. Hope you guys have fast forwarded through this. Yeah, it's just a bunch of crap talking between posters. All right. Going to go see Theo Vaughn. Anybody going to go see Theo Vaughn Thursday? I'm looking forward to it. Stephen Shope says he can't hear me. That's because you don't have your volume turned up or you have your earplugs plugged into your computer or something. It's funny to me. We always get one. It's like, can't hear you. Volume's terrible. Well, there's probably a reason. Okay. So looks like we just got a bunch of back and forth, and I'm just going through reading people's back and forth, trying to find an answer. Or a question that I can answer. So if you got one, go ahead and get it in at the bottom. But looking forward to seeing Theo Vaughn. He's coming to Bud Walton Arena on Thursday. So I will go to press conferences, go to football practice, grab something to eat, and then go to Theo Vaughn. So looking forward to that. Nate Bergatz, is that Bergatz? I can't ever remember how to say his name. I'm very familiar with him, but I just always screw his name up. But he's coming to the AMP. So I don't think we get a lot of comedians, especially like those are pretty big name guys. I mean, Theo Vaughn interviews, he's interviewed the president, vice president. So, I mean, that just shows you he's a pretty big deal. But he's hilarious to me. Like just some of the stuff that comes out of that dude's mouth, like he's got an altered way of thinking and then spitting it out. So, looking forward to going to see Theo Vaughn. So we got guys saying like, you're the one here crying, dildo. Like, what are we doing here? Cry more, boomer. What are we doing? Why are you guys just using the comment section as your own personal playground? No questions. Okay. So Mr. TW says, Trey, I sincerely feel for you having to find a silver lining week after week under this regime. Keep it up, though. We enjoy it, even if we have zero faith in Coach Gomer Powell. So I'm not trying to find a silver lining. Like, that's not my job to find a silver lining. I appreciate what you're saying. I do. I appreciate the comment. But like, I'm not here like going like, how can I make this sound good? What's a good thing out here? I'm just trying to talk about what I like that I see out there and what I don't like. And what I like on an all-encompassing overview, I like the way the offense looks overall. Not perfect, not better than it was last year at every spot, like wide receiver. Defense, I'm having a little bit harder time feeling that way. And I like what they have going on at special teams. I think, you never know with a kicker, but I feel like Starzik has what it takes to be a good kicker. He's very highly recruited. So, no, I know you meant that as a compliment, TW. All right, everybody. We've gone a while. We have almost 2,000 people watching. Appreciate all of you guys. Appreciate the support, everybody. I really do. Thanks for making HawgSports very popular. Obviously, I've been at this for 22 years now. It's crazy. I made my 100,000th post on the Razor's Edge the other day. 100,000 posts. 22 years of doing this, covering this team, not counting the time, that I went to the University of Arkansas and grew up in this state and all of those types of things. But as far as just like covering Razorback sports professionally, 22 years ago, pretty wild to think about. So anyway, thanks everybody for hopping on and give us a like and a thumbs up, all those things. If you haven't done so now, it's a great time to give us that like, thumbs up. Apple Podcast. It's been a little bit since we've had a review, I'm just going to say. But it's also, we've had the show pretty sporadically. I think the last show I did was that right after spring break maybe? Or was it? I can't remember. It's been a little bit. I know it's been sporadic. It's hard with football because, it's during the middle of the day. Let's see. Let's see if we've had any reviews on here. If you leave me a good review, I'll read it on the air. So right now we have over 1,000 reviews. We're a 4.9, so making us the highest rated podcast. All right. The last review we've had, guys, you're not going to believe this. We've had 1,000 of them, over 1,000, 1,049 reviews. The last one was November 18th from Zachariah ! 88. Great show, Trey. We appreciate you and your team. Very informative program for any Razorback fans. Says 10 out of 10 do recommend. So appreciate that. From November 18th, guys. Is that right? Been a little bit. Get on there and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We would appreciate that. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate you. Thanks to Connor Goodson for hopping on. Thanks to Kevin Bohannan. Follow those guys on X, on social media, and read their content at HawgSports. That's it. That's the show. Appreciate you. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.